Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. Thank you, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, for allowing us to have your association through this book distribution inspiration session. The African BBT is very grateful to have this opportunity. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to all the leaders from the African Yatra who have joined us today, as well as all the leaders who have joined in from different parts of the world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Govardhan Prabhu. Hare Krishna Tirumala Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna. Govardhan Prabhu, please give us some empowering words.
Hare Krishna Vaisheshika Prabhu, I tell you what, this is a historic virtual gathering. First time ever on African soil do we have leaders from the African continent and Sankirtan devotees. We have West Africa, we have East Africa, South Africa, we have Mauritius, and we have come together to hear about the most important activity in the creation. And who else but Vaisheshika Prabhu can put this in perspective for us. So we are really grateful to Vaisheshika Prabhu. Thank you so much, Vaisheshika Prabhu. We look forward to the ecstasy in the next hour and a half. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I must say that I miss you, Govardhan Prabhu. You're my life and soul. We have had time together, and I know that your heart is fully into the Sankirtan movement, and very specifically expanding book distribution, because it's what brought you to Krishna consciousness. And whatever's in the heart of the leaders expands out to everyone else. It opens the door and makes it possible to actually create an empire of book distribution and to flood a continent with books if the leaders are, if that's what's in their heart, that's what emanates. So thank you very much, Govardhan Prabhu. And to everyone in the African Yatra, it's a very heartfelt experience to be with you again. I had the unexpected experience of coming to Africa a while back. I never thought I'd make it there, but somehow I found myself on an airplane and ended up there, and was thoroughly impressed that there's another world of Krishna consciousness on that continent, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The infrastructure and the enthusiasm of the devotees. Govardhan Prabhu and I had been talking about pre-pandemic a way of getting back there. It seems like going to another planet for me, as far as distance and time changes and everything like that. And now here we are. So first of all, I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of you who are giving your lives and souls to expanding the Sankirtan movement, and who are undoubtedly on your way back to the spiritual world for your full dedication to Krishna consciousness. Thank you very, very much for allowing me this time with you. These are times in which we have great opportunity. Prabhupada mentions that during wartime, one has the opportunity of becoming a hero. During times of unprecedented challenge, we have the opportunity to find new ways to expand the Sankirtan movement. And that's really been the case during the pandemic. There's a cognitive dissonance that's prevalent these days. And that is, on one side, there's a sense that, well, we can't do much because the pandemic is going on, especially concerning book distribution. On the other side, there are certain parts of the world and devotees, groups of devotees and teams that are excelling what they've ever done before. in book distribution, doubling, tripling what they've done by using new methods. So I hope to even out this dissonance by presenting some encouragement, by telling you what devotees are doing in various places to increase book distribution during the pandemic. And the primary way is by seeing this as an opportunity. Never waste a good crisis. It is the time through which we can find new ways to present Krishna consciousness. And that's been the case locally here at ISV and in other places around the world. So before I go into a formal presentation, I just like a sampling of questions to get a bearing of what you're all thinking. Also, feel free if you're there and you want to turn on your camera. It's okay with me if you're in your pajamas, if you're having eating some sabji and chapatis or whatever it may be. I'd prefer to see the, to feel your presence with your camera on. It energizes me. So be yourselves and be present if you feel like it. And if you don't, it's okay too. So if you wouldn't mind, please ask a couple of questions so I get an idea. I want a sampling of what you're thinking and what you'd like to know. I don't think that's a question, actually. I think that's background noise. And when I say turn on your camera, it doesn't mean you have to turn on your audio either, unless you have a question. Tirumala Mataji, can we solicit a couple of questions just to get started?
Would anybody like to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question, please. My hand is up.
Yes, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Please, digital books, while all the books are online, and we base on books to raise funds to maintain the temples. So how do we raise funds through book distribution when many people can easily buy the books online?
Most people, if I understood you correctly, you're asking how do we collect funds for books that we distribute online? Please clarify. Govardhan Prabhu, is that what he was asking? Tirumala, is that what he was asking?
No, he's asking that if books are available online. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Please just introduce yourself and which country you are also, so it'll help.
Hello?
Yeah.
From West Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of West Africa.
Yeah, from Nigeria, West Africa.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Do you get my question?
No. Govardhan Prabhu, please clarify.
Yes, so Prabhuji is asking if books are available online, how are you going to sell them to raise income for temples if they're freely available online? That's your question, Prabhu, am I right?
Yes, that's my question. Correct.
Well, actually, people don't buy books, whether online or in person. What they're looking for is the benefit of the book. In fact, people don't buy products, they buy benefits. When people go to the store to buy a drill bit, they're not looking for a drill bit, they're looking for a hole so they can hang a picture on the wall. And so really, it's not the item itself, it's actually the result, the benefit. And when people meet devotees, they're experiencing the effulgence of the devotee, and they want that. And they're looking for that. So in our presentation to people, it's the spiritual influence of the devotee that they're feeling. So there's no dichotomy and there's no obstacle to having books here, there, and everywhere, because it's not tit for tat. we find that when we present books to people door to door, on the street, over the phone, on the internet, and so forth, it's each individual interaction that counts. When they hear from the devotee and they feel the goodwill coming from the devotee, that they buy books. And if there's a case where somebody says, okay, well, I can buy this online, why should I buy it from you? Then what we're actually offering them when we talk to them is not just the book, but also an opportunity to enter into the process of devotional service through association. And so they're getting an entire suite of services when they meet devotees. So you can make those even more obvious when you're offering books and package things together so that it's not just a book, but it's also, for instance, what we have created here in North America is the Bhakti community, an online community that people can join upon purchasing the book. And so there's no comparison. There's no tit for tat just based on price. Let's just see if there's a couple other questions. What burning questions do you have for me today? I need to be stimulated by hearing what desires you have to fulfill in the way of expanding book distribution. So it helps frame the way I present.
Prabhu, there's a question in the chat from Rukmini Devidasi. She says, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I was godsmacked by your video, Burn the Ships. How can we truly do so when this time also asks us to focus on operational things to keep the wheels turning?
Well, we always have operational things to keep the wheels turning. And the point is, and a point I'll make in the presentation today more systematically, is that book distribution is a way in which we edify ourselves and we edify our communities. The experience of taking time to reach out to people who don't have the benefit of transcendental knowledge, taking a risk of going outside one's comfort zone, is where we actually feel spiritual inspiration. You can't get spiritual inspiration staying in your comfort zone. You have to move outside of it. And book distribution affords that opportunity for the individual and for the community. And when that happens, then operational endeavors make sense. Otherwise, what you're doing is managing on a plateau. If you're a manager, what you're doing is managing problems 24/7. You're kung fu fighting all day long, guaranteed. All the managers are nodding their heads now. And so who wants to do that on a plateau? So unless we're taking risks for outreach and reaching out to other people to give them Krishna consciousness, which is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, then those problems don't even make sense. They simply become a burden on our head. However, if we are managing the results of our outreach and dealing with problems related to that, then it becomes invigorating to manage these problems because we know we're going somewhere. So book distribution is the seventh purpose of ISKCON. And if you'll note, Prabhupada writes that this seventh purpose of publishing books and distributing them will allow us to achieve the aforementioned 6 purposes of ISKCON. He lists 6 purposes, and then he says the 7th, which is book distribution, is what will allow us to fulfill the first 6 purposes. So what does that mean? If I put it in a metaphor, it's as if book distribution is the tip of the spear for our outreach. So when we have book distribution in the forefront, then all other programs, all other ways of managing and keeping the wheels turning actually become successful. Now, one of the reasons that book distribution is so effective for us in our movement and keeping the movement moving is because it's quantifiable. It's the most quantifiable, I would argue, of all the services that we do, because there are units you can count. For instance, in Africa, let's say South Africa, when you get a box of Bhagavad Gitas, how many books are in the box? Who could say?
20.
We should be able to wake you up at 1 o'clock in the morning and say, how many Bhagavad Gitas are in one carton of Bhagavad Gitas in South Africa? You used to say 18.
20.
How many?
20.
20? This should be a quiz everyone has to take. So there's 20 in there. Now, when you go on the phone or the internet and distribute those books, and then you send them out, and then the box is, let's just say the box is empty at the end of the day. How many units did you distribute if the box is empty?
20.
20. Very good. Whoever said that got 100% score. 20, and that's something that you can mark down. And if you have a community and you say, we sent out 100 boxes of 20 and they all came back empty, how many did we distribute?
100.
20 in each, and we distributed? Yeah. 100 boxes, 20 in each?
2,000.
2,000, Prabhu.
Okay, yeah. So there's a way in which being able to keep score is very helpful in any endeavor, because what gets measured gets done. So book distribution is very measurable, and there's a way also that we can count how much revenue comes back, in the form of, what are they called? Rands? South Africa? Rands, how about in Nigeria, there's something. You can count the use, how many come in, how many go out. So that's very helpful. You can also count how many devotees participated and so forth, and that really helps. So let me make one other point, and that is that the numbers in one way are insignificant, because birds fly in the sky as high as they're able, but the sky's unlimited. Therefore, how high they fly is not that relevant. The question is, are they flying to their capacity, and can they increase their capacity? So here's what we're finding, is that on a continental level, on a worldwide level, the more we're able to formulate a goal for our communities in the local community, on the continental, as a continental community, as a global community, the more we're able to get consensus on a reasonable goal and work on it together, that's when we develop more capacity. And so this is what we're interested in. Let me show you a quick video. Anukul Seva, are you on? If you can allow Anukul Seva to share, I'll just show you this concept in a very short video, which is soon to become a major motion picture. This is the trailer for the major motion picture coming out in a theater near you. Anukul Seva, can you share?
Yes, ma, is the NASA one, right?
Pardon?
The NASA one, right?
Yeah, NASA. Have you all heard of NASA? That's our space exploration program here, and book distribution is just like that. And here's Anukul Seva Prabhu, our technical expert, who's going to share a video. I'll give you an example, just like with NASA. That's our space exploration here in America. They build rockets, and then they have missions they shoot off to various places. And the main event seems to be the rocket taking off. But actually, the real benefit of these is the forced efficiency they get from having a time when it has to blast off. And as an example, The modern management that's taught in all this top flight universities comes from NASA, from the pressure of getting everything right and getting a rocket off the ground, working together as a team. And my proposal is the more that we shoot for these goals, it's like a moonshot. We're going for these big goals together. And as we do it, we develop more capacity within our communities. And it's not just for book distribution, it spills out into all the other aspects. Individually, we become better, we become more focused, and collectively, we also see the power of cooperation in our communities as well, and how that's our real strength. So when we set a goal in our community and then we work together to achieve the goal, what's most consequential is what happens while we're working to achieve it. We develop systems, efficiencies, economies. We have to cooperate together, and this becomes systemic in the organization. This level of efficiency, which is created by the power of working towards goals in book distribution. And therefore, Prabhupada wrote, the seventh purpose will help fulfill the previous six. Book distribution is an unassailable service. It is part of our sampradaya to print books and make them available to the world. It is also a reasonable way in which to inculcate ideologies into society, as Prabhupada put it, to inject the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya into modern society through books. How else would you do it? And therefore, when we work on this unassailable service together towards a worthy goal, everyone doing their small part, everyone working together and celebrating it as a community, we find that the benefits become available to every aspect of our organization. Okay, I'll take one more question before I go into formal presentation mode.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dwarka Vasini from Nairobi, Kenya.
My obeisances.
My obeisances. My question is regarding how you've been distributing books during the pandemic, and you've been calling people on phone. So how do you determine the contacts?
Yeah, what a great question. We didn't pay her to ask this most important question. She just is connected with Super Soul, obviously. So how do we get contacts? Well, contacts are all around us. We just don't realize it. This movement is about contacts. Networking is everything when you're growing a movement like ours. The way to network is to consider every person you meet the most important link to growing your organization. You don't know who people are connected with. The person could be a homeless person and they actually are connected with somehow through 2 generations or 2 other levels of separation to the president of your country, the prime minister. Who knows? Nonetheless, the Sri Upanishad says, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaivad bud vijanataha tatrako mohakasho ka ekatvam manupashita yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupashati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatunav jigupsate. You should always think like this. Every living entity you meet is the most important entity because it's part of Krishna. And when we think like that, that's Sankirtan, that's networking. And we'll go out of our way to cultivate those people who are open to being cultivated. The other ones, we are advised to let as fruits. When we're picking fruits, we leave the unripe ones on the vine, but the other ones we take in. So during this pandemic time, we've started to realize more the importance of contacts. When we first got locked down, we realized, okay, we can't go out. So let's look through and see which contacts we've collected already. It turns out we had contacts from 2014 from people who came to our temple during Janmashtami, and we never called them back. Why? We were moving on to the next person, next book, next project, and we started calling people. Anybody, any place we could find a name, a scrap of paper, a number, and we called them. And it turned out that they were waiting for us. It was like, yeah, it was 2014. How come you're calling me 6 years later? And so the answer is contacts, look in, on the scraps of paper you have in your closet and things you wrote down and the people you may have forgotten about, and go back and call them. Call everybody. And start there. Then it turns out it branches because those people have friends, and referrals is huge. Now we're taking contacts more seriously because we see their values, their value. Some devotees are also just looking at the environment more carefully. For instance, if you ever noticed, if you're on social media and you see somebody with a backdrop, for instance, you look and you see they're talking and they have an Om symbol behind them. And then, message them and say, hey, I saw your Om. You look spiritual, just like you would on the street. You see someone with a t-shirt, right? Surabhi's smiling because she knows this thing. You see somebody with this Om symbol on their shirt and you say, hey, I saw your shirt. You look spiritual. Where are you from? Same thing, no difference. You see somebody, you just contact them. And as it turns out, you could run a small airline off a smartphone. They're so powerful nowadays. We only use about 1% of their capacity. Well, now use it. What do you think the smartphone was invented? It was invented for this pandemic so that we could spread the Sankirtan movement. One person with one smartphone, I guarantee you, could take over a continent if they leaned into it and didn't just like scroll through and look at stupid stuff. All you have to do is store the numbers, start calling people. They're living entities. They respond to the voice of another living entity, a human being on the other end, and especially during the pandemic. And guess what? It's much easier to call people on the phone than it is to try to drive to a neighborhood, find parking, get out, knock on the door, nobody home, go to the next place, call on the phone. We're never going to stop doing this now. Even if they let us out of here someday, we're still going to be on the phone. We're still going to be on the internet because guess what? It's much bigger. So make a concerted effort to dig up all the contacts you already have, and don't be afraid to call. People are actually waiting. Prabhupada wrote in his Vrindavane Bhajan before he came to America. He said, people are sitting in their homes. They're looking out the window down the road, wondering, when are Nitai and Gaur going to come and save me? And they're also sitting by their phones. When their uncle Dilip calls them, you got to listen to all his nonsense and political stuff. But when you call them and say, hey, how you doing? And you actually care about them, they feel life on the other end of the phone. They're waiting for that. They have no other remedy except to hear from you. And don't worry if 7 out of 10 say, I don't have time right now. That's the same thing happens to you on the street. What is the difference? It's just easier, that's all. So we recommend also for calling. We realized in the beginning when we started doing it that devotees were still hesitant. So we formed what we call calling parties. So a calling party means you get together. So what it would look like is what we're looking at right now. You see, we're all looking at each other and we feel each other's presence. So now behind muted mics, you'd see everybody doing this. And you'd know, oh, they're calling somebody, so I'm going to call somebody too. And then you meet in the middle and somebody will come off mute and say, hey, I just sold a set of Bhagavatams. I was like, how did you do it? I was like, all I did, I don't know what to say. I just called them and told them and they bought it. It's like, God, if you can sell one, I can sell one. And then you have this camaraderie going on. And in the calling party, when we work together as one team, then we get this confidence. Also, on the calling party, we'd be looking at the screen here, and over on the chat box, you'd see a bunch of links. And each one of the links would take you to a Google Doc that would give you a script. Okay, let's just say, I don't want to think about what I have to say. I just want to read a script. So I dial the number, the person answers, and then you just read it off the script. And that's what I'd like to do. So that you have that. So the other link would take you to a place where there's various ways that people can pay for the book. So let's just say you get somebody on the phone and you say, hi, how are you? How's your family doing? I'm from ISKCON. We have this $2 million. We have a goal to distribute 2 million Bhagavad Gitas together. We have a global team. You're surrounded. We're all over the world doing this. And, we just called to check in on you. And how are you doing? And it's like, if the person has any kind of inkling to keep the conversation going, you're in. And you just keep talking to them and they say, look, we've got books. We're sending them out to everybody. Can we send you some? Oh, yeah, you can send me some. And then we ask for donations. So Anna Kulseva just put it up there on the chat box just now. And so you'd go to one of the links, and you tell them, okay, here, I'll send you a link. Here's where you can pay. They can pay PayPal, Venmo. I don't know what you have in Africa, but I know you got something, and a way for people to pay online, because that's how people pay for stuff nowadays. And they do it, and they pay for it. And so you just get your whole operation, the same kind of thing we've been doing all together at the monthly Sankirtan Festival. Just bring it indoors, get it online. And at the very least, when the pandemic starts to go down a little bit and we do go outside, we'll have 2 pipelines. We'll have expanded our capacity. Now is the time to develop online and make sure that you've got this part really going, because it's what we really need, is a way online to support people, even when we do meet them on the street. Okay, I'll be back in 60 seconds.
So while we wait for Vaisheshika Prabhu, there was a comment in the chat box that I'll read. It's from Kevin Gagnier. Judge DiCaprio in the US has set up a fund after his mother, the Philomena Fund. Many who appear before the judge cannot pay their traffic tickets. Donors from around the world contribute towards this fund. And at the end, the judge's discretion select people have tickets paid for. Would be great to have a Prabhupada fund, so would be donors from around the world who could do this. Heartbreaking to withhold books from those who cannot afford books.
Great idea, Kevin. Taxing the brain. Okay, now I just get an orientation here to make sure that we're going according to the schedule. And Tirumala Mataji, shall I keep presenting, or do you want to take it out to the devotees in the yatra, or do you want me to show a little more formal presentation and then do that? What should we do?
It would be nice if you could show some of your presentation,
Okay.
and then, yeah, before we go into the regional section.
Okay. Total duration today.
So we were aiming for between 1 hour, 15 minutes and 1.5 hours.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm going to go on to presentation mode, if you're all ready for that. And here we are. Our current campaign, and when I say current campaign, I'm talking about a global campaign. We're looking towards having one global team where we all work together. Obviously, there are individual incentives locally, individually, and so forth, but we're keeping an eye to unite all the yatras of the world towards a world goal. That means tracking towards that. And the current campaign is to distribute at least 2 million Bhagavad Gitas before the end of the year for the marathon. And each continent is taking a continental goal towards this. That, as I explained earlier, helps us all to go towards creating efficiencies and economies. As a reminder, how does this all work? We have a legacy called the Sampradaya, which means we're gift givers. That's the purpose of our movement. Sampradaya actually means to give the complete gift. Advaita Acharya showed the means through which one can either start the Sankirtan movement or sustain it, and that is by intense prayer. He made these intense prayers, please, Lord, help us. And that's really what makes this whole thing go, is leaning into one's prayers and saying, please help me. When I first started book distribution in 1973, I caught the fever upon joining, and I remember sitting in the book room. I heard that somebody somewhere had distributed 40 big books in one day, which was unprecedented at the time. So I put 40 big books in a stack in the book room, and every day I sit in front of it and chant my rounds praying, please, Krishna, show me how to distribute 40 big books in one day. And then it happened. And so this is how we expand the Sankirtan movement, follow Advaita Acharya, because soon after these prayers, Lord Chaitanya appears in one of his forms. It's by the request of the devotees, but you have to be intense and sincere. The movement really is very simple. There's two parts to it. The first part is chant Hare Krishna. The second is teach it to others. What's part one?
And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What's part two?
Teach it to others.
I don't think everyone's participating. I'm watching and the lips aren't moving. What's the first part? What's part two?
Teach it to others.
Yes,
Teach it
two
to
parts
others.
only. That's easy to pass on everywhere. And there's a marketplace. Marketing means quantitative and qualitative reasoning skills are involved. We have the whole world as our marketplace. That's our mission statement, every town and village. So it's wide open. You can do this until your last breath. Feel free. Feel free to use all your inspiration, your physical strength, your speaking power to try to expand every town and village, and you'll just be transferred back to Godhead as a result. That's all. This movement became hidden. The material world's oppressive. It's enervating. It takes away the energy of all endeavors just by its nature. So we have to be vigilant. Bhaktivinoda Thakur restored the Sankirtan movement in 1891 after it had become piled underneath all kinds of upper sampradayas. That's our duty as followers. We have to sharpen the Siddhanta and bring it to light for the world. He declared at Surbij Kunj that the marketplace was again open. Anyone can declare that. Wherever you are, in a house, in a tent, living under a bridge, if you live in a community, declare the marketplace open and start marketing Lord Chaitanya's movement. It's the most exalted position you can get. He prayed, just as Advaita Acharya did. He said, send a ray of Vishnu. He wanted a personality to appear who could help spread it all over the world. Both Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada were answers to a prayer. It's about prayer. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and other great souls who kept the Shuddhanam going all the time were carrying that same vibration that Lord Chaitanya brought. And that's what we're representing. It's the vibration, the prayer of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that conquers the world. So we have to keep it going. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he spread this all over India. How is that possible unless one's empowered by Lord Chaitanya? And then he passed on the same mood to our Srila Prabhupada, who asked him sincerely, what do you want me to do? And this was his concise answer. If you ever get money, print books. So Srila Prabhupada said, I took this from his mouth, that he's very fond of books. That's why our Prabhupada put his life and soul into spreading the marketplace all over the world. And if we do the same thing, we are following the order of following the footsteps. We're grabbing onto that rope, the order of the Acharya, through which we'll become empowered and also Krishna conscious. Srila Prabhupada thought big. Notice this pamphlet in which he says 60 volumes of elaborate English version when he only had 3 at the time. And he said 60. How do you get from 3 to 60? He also said all over the world for scientific knowledge of God. He was alone, but he knew he was backed by Lord Chaitanya. So this is the prerogative of everyone in the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya is a spiritual venture capitalist. He's got the capital. He'll give it to you if you want to be an entrepreneur and say, yes, I'm going to help. So Prabhupada said, I want everyone, actually, this is the Lord's plan. Lord Chaitanya says this, I want everyone to be immersed in the inundation of love of Godhead. And Prabhupada says, in parallel, by printing our books, we can actually inject our movement into the masses of people all over the world. So the plans are parallel, and book distribution, Prabhupada said, is Lord Chaitanya's plan. No difference. We are coming from the sampradaya of the book. So if you'll notice something anachronistic about this picture, there's Brahma before printed books, but he's holding a book. That's because we come from the sampradaya of the book. Srila Vyasadeva, he's sitting writing a book. Madhvacharya, he's holding a book. Srila Rupa Goswami, kneeling before one of his books. Srila Sanatana Goswami, writing a book. 6 Goswamis, famous for their books. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, posing with his books. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, posing with his books. Srila Prabhupada, posing with his books. I'll just ask you if you see any pattern here. Anyone notice a pattern? Yes? What's the commonality in all these pictures I presented?
The books.
Books.
Books. Okay, you noticed it. Good. All right, so books change the world. It's not some sentimental thing from the 60s or 70s that devotees used to run around and sell books and it's very quaint and cute. No, this is a strategy used to spread ideologies all over the world. Common Sense by Thomas Paine changed the what's called now the American continent. It was a book that galvanized the people in the colonies to rise up for revolution. How do you get people organized in one place? It's a book. It was the best-selling book per capita of all time. Still. Origin of the Species. Everyone nowadays in the world, directly or indirectly, accepts the idea of evolution. And they haven't read this book, but the ideas from it went all over the world because it was compiled in a book. From handwritten books to the printing press. And this press is actually an image of the press, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's press. It's there in a museum in Calcutta that he used. He bought it from Cleveland, Ohio in America. He shipped it across the ocean just so he could print books. Books are containers. They hold idea seeds and they spill out into the world. And the reason they change is because jivas called tatastha are open to suggestion. They're just waiting for you to suggest something to them and they will change their mind. And when it comes from a book, that's how they become influenced. So success is not a mystery at all. It's a recipe. So here are the 4 laws of book distribution. And if you follow these laws individually, collectively, I guarantee you, promise you, you will have success as much as you desire. There they are. The first is your sadhana must be strong. The second is you must get books. The third is the more you show, the more you sell. And fourth is you must organize. Law number 1, your sadhana must be strict, serious, and sincere. When you have strict, serious, and sincere sadhana, you get a taste. From taste, you get absorption, which leads to advancement. And when you have absorption, you have some overflow to distribute. Your day starts the night before. Be serious, get into japa, make japa great again, and win with the basics in Krishna consciousness, like read Bhagavad Gita every day, have small victories in your sadhana. Prabhupada wanted us to read every single day. We have various places that you can visit, like readchad.com. You have your own in Africa. Be a Sage page by page. It's a free app for Android and iOS, where you can dial in how many pages you read every day. Law number 2, we've studied in major universities all over the world, and they came to a conclusion after double-blind studies that you can't distribute books you don't have. So get books. It's a mystery. It's a miracle, rather, that we have books at all. Don't take it for granted. Get them and load them up in your house. Put them in front of the refrigerator. Tell the family you can't eat until these books are gone. Get them in all the languages. Don't hesitate. Don't worry if it costs more. It doesn't matter. The money comes back in multiples. Get books in languages to accommodate people local to you. Don't be stingy. Use language cards if you don't know the language. It's easier than learning a language, and it's more effective. We distribute 5,000 books down in Jagannath Puri every time we go there for our yatra, and it's mostly Chinese, Japanese, and European devotees distributing to people who don't speak their language. Law number 3, the more you show, the more you sell. It's just a fact. If you take the books out of their cases, you put them online, you take them, put them on tables, you hold them up, you will sell them, because little Jiva's just looking around the whole universe wondering, where's there something nice? And when they see the books, some of them with a little piety in their heart are going to come over and go, give me that book, man. I want it right now. Calling parties. Get people together and call people up. This is a picture. You can see the faces. They're not messing around. Look at their faces. They're on the phone. They're out of their comfort zone. They're making advancement. They're calling people. And guess what? They're doing 3 times bigger than we ever did on the street. And here's some people who are going out in areas during parts of the pandemic when it was a little less, and they're masking up, and they're being careful, and they're selling books because they are showing them. Number 4 is you must organize. I mentioned the 7 purposes of ISKCON, but unless you're making a circle on your calendar and saying, this is the day we make our stand, this is the day I conquer my mind and I walk out the door, even if it's for 2 minutes, outside my comfort zone, going into the great unknown, or making a phone call or whatever it is, we have to mark it. It's the time the rocket takes off, and working towards that is when we make our advancement. Goals are potent. Sometimes, yeah, maybe we'll do it, maybe we don't. Fine, but you're not going to get any energy from Lord Chaitanya if you say that. If you put your flag down and say, here's my goal, we talked it over with everybody, all the GBCs, all the temple presidents, all leaders, we agree, we're going for this no matter what. That's when you get the energy. That's when Lord Chaitanya says, okay, here's somebody with $500,000 is going to help you. That's when, things come out of nowhere. And that is what our movement is. It's a movement of miracles, and miracles don't happen until we take a risk. And the risk is set a goal for book distribution and try to go for it. And until we do that, life is boring, even in ISKCON. I hate to tell you this, but it's boring, and there's no oxygen unless you set a goal and you say, we're going to make the movement move. We're going to stand up. We're going to build an empire on the continent, African continent. We're going to build an empire that the likes of which the world has never seen before. And we're planting our flag now for Prabhupada, for Lord Chaitanya. We're going to distribute books. Set goals, please set goals. Manage inventory as if it was Krishna. The book room should be clean, pristine, well stocked, well considered, like Apple, like Hewlett Packard, which, by the way, both started in a garage. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs started it in Steve Jobs's garage. Hewlett and Packard started in a garage. Why were they successful? They set goals and they organized. You can build a book distribution empire on the African continent bigger than Apple and bigger than Hewlett Packard because you have Lord Chaitanya's backing. You just have to follow the 4 laws of book distribution. And finally, build a follow-up strategy because everything should have a next thing. When you meet somebody, give them an opportunity. And here is one example, which I'm going to show you in a second, about one way that we're following up here. So that last presentation was about Bhakti community. It was the digital infrastructure is in the making for a few years, but the pandemic gave us an excuse to launch, and now it's spreading all over the world. We have it at ISKCON Silicon Valley with classes well attended by newcomers, and now it's spread to Sydney. The leaders in Canada are taking up Chicago. Various places around the world. It's franchisable. Anybody could start one themselves, but it takes several years of development, and according to our calculations, or you can grab onto the Bhakti community and use it locally yourselves. So these are a few ideas, and I don't want to go too much deeper into it because we have very limited amount of time, and I'll hand it back over to Tirumala Mataji for your own local presentations and idea sharing.
Thank you so much, Vaisheshika Prabhu. I'm sure that everybody found that to be very empowering and inspiring. So moving on to the regional section of the program, I'd first like to start by inviting His Grace Srivas Prabhu from West Africa to speak. Srivas Prabhu is one of our BBT Africa ambassadors and a very senior devotee within the African Yatra.
Hare Krishna. Vaisheshika Prabhu, thank you very much for this inspiration. Actually, anytime I see you, I feel I'm seeing Lord Chaitanya. You have the spirit of distributing the mercy throughout the whole world. So thank you for visiting Africa and giving us this inspiration. We shall try in West Africa. In fact, for many years, book distribution has kind of gone into a slumber. coma. And so by this seminar, by this your inspiration, we hope that this year something will happen. It should be a reviving year of book distribution. And thank you for the inspiration. We will be in touch to get more inspiration. And we hope when the pandemic goes down, we shall invite you to West Africa to personally gain some more experience from your many, many years of book distribution. Thank you very much, Govardhan. Thank you, Prabhu, for arranging this program. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Srivas Prabhu. We'd now like to move to South Africa. And the goal for South Africa at the moment is 15,000 Bhagavad Gitas for this campaign. I'd first like to call upon His Grace Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, who is also an African BBT ambassador, as well as the Minister of Book Distribution in South Africa. Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much, Vaisheshika Prabhu, for all of your inspiration. During the hard lockdown here in South Africa, we thought that we'll never do book distribution again. And we were hardly doing anything throughout April and May. And then we saw your calling parties and your presentations, and we've seen how you and the devotees are doing it. And for example, in June last year, we distributed 2,000 books. But in June this year, we distributed over 5,000 books for 2,000 book points. So it was really, really, it's all through your inspiration. So we're really inspired by that. If you'll just give me a moment, it was Jai Advaita Maharaj's Vyasa Puja on Friday, and I can just read you part of my offering. I write, an old African proverb states, if you think that you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent a night with a mosquito. Africa has an estimated population of 1.1 billion people and only a handful of Krishna's devotees. Maharaj, I can see that by your mercy, you travel all over the African continent, trying to inspire Krishna consciousness in small ways, and at the same time having a massive impact in the lives of the devotees. Many claim that the African continent resembles Nelson Mandela's handprint, but from a Krishna conscious view, we notice that this is gradually changing to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprint. So this is all by Maharaj's mercy and by Shekhar Prabhu's mercy that they keeping this Brihad Madanga beating here in Africa, and we hope that we can, with all of your blessings, distribute these Bhagavad Gitas throughout this Prabhupada marathon. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. So still within South Africa, I'd like to call upon His Grace Smita Krishna Prabhu, who had earlier this year, he started a drive to distribute Bhagavad Gitas. Smita Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, my obeisances to all the devotees, except my obeisances, Vaisheshika Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Tirumala, for coordinating everything nicely. I've had the great benefit of meeting you, Prabhu, Vaisheshika Prabhu, when you came to South Africa and you gave us the personal demonstrations in the temple room of how to distribute books and so on. But perhaps you may not remember me. During the lockdown period, I find, as you have told us, that many devotees are in, or many persons are in uncertainty and as well as anxiety about the outcomes of this pandemic. It is a great misfortune and unfortunate that my own spiritual master left due to this. And when that happened, then I decided that I will do a tribute of Bhagavad Gitas in his name. So I began a Bhagavad Gita drive, an initiative, and then I simply put it on WhatsApp and Facebook and sent out emails and made a few calls. And then it sat there like for 2 or 3 days, but then it started to roll in. And within a period of about 3 to 4 weeks, we did 270 Bhagavad Gitas. So I feel there's a ample opportunity for the same kind of drive to be done. And I have a class, like now I just before I got into this meeting, I was a little late, but I do a regular program on Sundays at 4 p.m. with new people on Zoom. So we get anything like between 30 to 35 people joining. And I presented that there, that we're on this drive and we want to raise contribution for 2 million Bhagavad Gitas regionally, a worldwide total, and please everybody participate. So after this meeting, now I'm going to go back there to my representative there to see how many people have actually committed. So I'm also inspired, and I want to thank Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, because for a while in South Africa, in the early days, there was a real boom in book distribution, then a kind of a flattening of the curve, when he used that term. And then under his direction now, it has increased. Our book distribution has increased. So I want to really thank Vibhu Chaitanya for that. And in the Sankirtan team that we used to have a meeting on Saturdays, which he coordinates, there's at least 80 to 100 devotees used to come out on book distribution. And I think it's about that same number that's on the telephone call distribution as well. So I hope to keep that program rolling with the Bhagavad Gitas as well. So thank you. And if you can please just continue to bless us and guide us, then we will be in safe hands. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you to everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Smita Krishna Prabhu, and especially for your for showing us how your dedication to pleasing your spiritual master has continued after his departure, and it's a lesson for all of us to learn from. So I really appreciate that. We'd now like to move to Kenya, and I'd like to call upon Her Grace Dwarka Vasini Mataji, who is also an ambassador for the African BBT, and she's a very inspiring devotee, one of our biggest distributors in the African continent. And she's also very dedicated towards encouraging and empowering the youth to distribute books. And she is the inspiration behind the Krishna Kids Sena group that goes out every Saturday to distribute books. And with her inspiration, they even do it during the holidays. So, Dwarka Vasini Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Tirumala. I don't deserve this. Hare Krishna, Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Hare Krishna to everybody else from the African continent. Whatever little that I've been able to do in terms of service for Srila Prabhupada or for my Guru Maharaj has been inspired by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. I've been following your videos. Initially, when I started book distribution, when the first time I went on to the World Sankirtan newsletter to post our scores, when you scroll down, there are 4 videos of Vaisheshika Prabhu, and those videos are what they gave me the inspiration, and they actually taught me. So whatever little that I know comes from him, and I'm so privileged, so honored that Prabhu is here with us today in Africa and giving us his time and his mercy. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Well, you spoke about the Krishna Kids Sena. This is really inspiring, especially for me, that because kids are so full of energy and enthusiasm. This is one team I've had that never let me down. They're always there. Sometimes we stay up on the street as late as 8 o'clock if the car has been late or something to pick us up. And I would think the next day they wouldn't come back, but they're all there, and in fact, they come early. The next day they're all there again, and again we go back on the street. So kids are really inspiring, and I would really like to say that take out the kids and show them, teach them, and they will teach others as well. This is our future. Okay, I'd like to share something that happened recently. And this was just, I think, a week before we were celebrating Diwali. Tirumala, you wanted me to talk about it, so here it is now. On Diwali day, actually it was our ISKCON was celebrating a day before, after, and the rest of the Indian community in Kenya was celebrating a day before. So that day, what we did, we brought out the Bhagavad Gitas and Krishna books. In case you have a Bhagavad Gita, we have another option for you. So this is, it also comes from Vaisheshika Prabhu, the more you show, the more you can distribute. So we placed all the Bhagavad Gitas in all the languages we had. We have Hindi, Gujarati, Tamil that we can't read, but it was there. And so we had all of that just outside our sweet shop. And there was a big crowd coming to the sweet shop to buy sweets. So after they come out of the sweet shop, we were there, me and my partner, my Sankirtan partner, Ambika Gopi, and we would take the book and would like, excuse me, sir, or excuse me, ma'am, this is a gift for you. And they would be like, wow, a gift. And sometimes somebody would say, but I have a Bhagavad Gita. Oh, we have Krishna book for you. This is the best gift you can get today. It's about Krishna. And in doing that, we just for a couple of hours, we were outside there and we managed to distribute about 100, or actually over 100 Bhagavad Gitas, including some Krishna books as well. And the best part was somebody would come and say, I have an English Bhagavad Gita, and would say, okay, choose the language you don't have. Maybe for your parents, maybe you have an English. Your parents may not be reading English. They could be reading Gujarati or Hindi. So they take, and there was this person who came and he said, would you be having a Marathi? I just want to read in my mother tongue. Though I can read Hindi, I can read English, but I want it in my mother tongue. And we literally searched the store for a Marathi Bhagavad Gita, got it, gave it to him, and his face, you could see the expression on his face was just so blissful. He was so happy. And in return, though it's a gift, we're giving it out as a gift, not asking for anything. I took a small sweet box, empty sweet box, and I would just nicely ask them, would you like to give a small donation so that we can continue giving more gifts to people? And believe me, this worked. Everyone was giving us a donation. We were not checking the donation, but at the end of the day, we literally paid for all the books that were donated, that were distributed, and we actually had some profit. And this was such a nice experience that after such a long break that we had, we've not been going on the street. So this felt so alive. It was so nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Varaka Vasini Mataji. As you can hear, she's just filled with inspiration. A while ago, we were both discussing what my goal was just for my personal distribution of Gitas, and she doubled that for me. So Mataji is very, she's just full of inspiration. So we now move to Mauritius. And I'd like to first call upon Tamal Krishna Prabhu, who is also one of our BBT Africa ambassadors. So the overall goal for Mauritius is 1100 Bhagavad Gitas. So Tamal Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Please accept my humble obeisances, Vaisheshika Prabhuji. I recall back to 2018 when I was in Vrindavan. For the first time, I attended a seminar by yourself, which was very, very wonderful for me because one word that touched me, actually, it's a phrase. You said that you just have to touch the pavement and then the rest will be done. So I took it at heart because I was thinking about what will it work, because we never tried in this way. So when I came back to Mauritius, so we organized, and I told the team that I heard this from Vaisheshika Prabhu. Yeah. So everybody, we went out and touched the pavement, And we see that, yes, literally we have to go and touch the payment so that everything will be done. So for this Live to Give campaign, we plan to distribute 1,100 Bhagavad Gitas. Actually, we checked our stock all over Mauritius. So we found out that there's only 1,100 Bhagavad Gita. So we decided to distribute them. We will try our best to distribute the Bhagavad Gitas for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas. Thank you very much. Yeah, we must get books. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tamal Krishna Prabhu. So next from Mauritius, we have Madhuri Radha Devidasi.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna all devotees. Thank you so much for the inspiring talks. And here in Mauritius, book distribution is quite easy. It's not so difficult to approach people to distribute books. So I must say that one must be empowered to serve Srila Prabhupada, committed. And if you know that art of distributing books, then well, you can very easily distribute all your books. And here we have recently created an academy, Preaching is the Essence. And this year only we have started organizing Sankirtan. We were doing it in a month, we were doing it twice, but during Purushottam Mas and Kartik, we have been going like every week and trying to distribute books. We do more small books here, but somehow we will try to distribute more Bhagavad Gita for this December marathon. We pray for your mercy so that we can do that and meet the goal. So thank you so much. That's all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhuri Radha. Next, we have, still from Mauritius, a very enthusiastic book distributor, His Grace Prem Vilas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Hare Krishna to all devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. So, thank you very much for the very inspiring talk. And actually, we are following all the campaigns that we're receiving from the BBT and from Vaisheshika Prabhu's inspiration, and we are trying to participate. And actually, the thing is that we didn't have so many books here, and just a few days back we got the shipment, and now the room is full of books here. And so for the first time in my life, I felt so enthusiastic knowing that the books are coming. They're going to deliver the books here. And when I saw the BBT room here full of books, I was very, very happy. So we have the books now. We started inspiring people, asking people to take books from the start of Kartik, but unfortunately we were not having the books. But now the books are here, and they're going very fast. And so I think that as Tamal Krishna Prabhu said, that we have 1,100 books in our store. I think they will be gone. Every single book will be gone. One thing that we are trying to do is to involve the children, and it's working. We don't have so much experience in that field, but we are trying to work on this organized. And as Mataji Dwarka Vasini was saying, that the children are full of energy, and this is very true, and we are trying to tap into this, and we hope that this will be something that works for us in Mauritius. And then what I would like to also add is that pleasing Srila Prabhupada through book distribution is a very good way, like to get ahead in our spiritual life. But we see that here there are many people who know about the glories, many devotees who know about the glories, of book distribution, but unfortunately they don't like make the first move. So here, what I'm doing is trying to involve everyone. So I asked each devotee that can you distribute at least one Bhagavad Gita for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada in the whole month of December or Kartik or whatever. And I see that it's people are very receptive, because they say the devotees are receptive and say, oh, only one Bhagavad Gita, it is very, very easy. So many hands make like big task easy to complete. So everyone is distributing very enthusiastically, and we have so many people that are taking more than one. When they are finished distributing, and they see it's so easy, so they're coming for more. They're taking more books to distribute. And then finally, what I would like to say, in Mauritius, we feel a bit good because here we don't have a lockdown. We don't have a lockdown like in other places. So we are distributing books personally. But I feel very inspired by the presentation of today's presentation, because I think that although there's no lockdown here, we should involve ourselves in distributing books by phone or by email or on whatever other medium, so that we can expand more. So I think this is something that we are going to try, definitely, digital Sankirtan. And then I'm sure that Sankirtan is going to explode in Mauritius. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prem Vilas Prabhu. I see that Radhapati Prabhu is here. He's from Reunion Island, and they have a goal of distributing 100 Bhagavad Gita. So I'd like to invite Radhapati Prabhu to speak.
Hare Krishna to everyone. Hare Krishna, Vaisheshika Prabhu. It's very inspiring. It's the first time I participate to such a nice presentation. So I am very happy to have your association, and thank you for your mercy. Reunion Island is a little yatra, so we have to do much here, much work to serve Srila Prabhupada mission. So we have decided to encourage all devotees, a few devotees here, to distribute some books. So our goal is a little goal, but we hope that we can participate and attain the goal of the campaign. So thank you very much for inspiring us here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhapati Prabhu. I know that we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to invite one more devotee who's a very enthusiastic devotee who's presently in Zimbabwe and is trying to distribute some books there. So I'd like to invite Jagadananda Prabhu to speak.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Especially thank His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu for kindly being here and inspiring the devotees in Africa. Of course, His Grace Govardhan Prabhu, Chaitanya, and anyone else that I have missed, please accept our humble obeisances. Zimbabwe at the moment, as many might know through news and different outlets, it's a bit of an economic mess. I guess every country at the moment is a bit of an economic mess, but Zimbabwe is a particularly interesting situation. So it has made, or it makes for an interesting situation for Sankirtan here as well. So a couple of the strategies that my wife and I are hoping to try is to approach institutions. There are a couple of universities and technicons who have satellite libraries all across the country. Our plan is to approach such satellite libraries, the main libraries themselves. We also have a few contacts in high schools in two of the major cities here in Zimbabwe. And one of them is the high school I went to, so it'll be like a going home ceremony, trying to take back what I've learned from the world back to high school. So we're approaching schools supporting their libraries as well. And the other institution we were planning to go to is hospitals. So there's one very nice pastime that His Holiness Kadamba Swami very often likes to recite about one devotee who, I won't tell the whole story, but one devotee who was distributing in a hospital, and they were eventually kicked out. But in their escape from the hospital, landed up in a butcher's convention, and in that butcher's convention, somehow they didn't have gifts for these butchers, and there was only these Hare Krishna books, and all the butchers got Hare Krishna books. So I'm always inspired by this hospital preaching in Sankirtan. So that's our hope here in Zimbabwe. And of course, the occasional one or two individuals on the street as we walk about and go about our daily business. I must be honest to admit that my wife and I's agenda in Zimbabwe is not solely book distribution. We are here on personal business as well, traveling around the country and meeting family. So we're trying to pull book distribution off in a simultaneous mission. Meet family, go out, distribute books. Meet family, go out, distribute books in that sort of capacity. In respect to the Live to Give movement, we unfortunately at the moment in Zimbabwe, as I said before, we experience a lot of economic difficulties. So transport networks are also a bit of a headache and a delay. So we've only managed to secure at this point in time 16 Bhagavad Gitas. Well, we had 20 and I've distributed 16 over the last couple of weeks that I've been here. But I've distributed 4, so thus we have 16 left. So our Bhagavad Gita pledge to this movement isn't much at the moment. But of course, we are always open to any donations that would come from any direction from the devotees present. And lastly, we just simply like to thank everyone for this opportunity and beg for everyone's blessings, especially His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, who is very inspiring to all the devotees and has been doing this for longer than most of us have been alive. So just those kind of facts alone really endear one to take on this movement, take on this mission, and just play some small role. So our small attempt here in Zimbabwe won't be the first effort of its kind. Zimbabwe has seen devotees before, but over the years, due to the political and economic environment, nothing has really taken root in terms of a fully functioning center or a temple in that sense. So my wife and I are just at grassroots level, just trying to get the ball rolling with the books, as is the preaching mechanism set up in Srila Prabhupada. So we just hope to play our small part in pleasing Srila Prabhupada this way. And we humbly ask the devotees for their blessings and praise. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Jagadananda Prabhu. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure that, your inspiration will spread and, you'll distribute even more books once you get more stock of books. So that was our last speaker from this regional section. And I'd like to thank everybody for their contribution and for sharing all of their ideas and what has been working and what's been happening in each of the different areas within Africa. The African BBT is very grateful, Vaisheshika Prabhu, to you for holding the session. I'd just like to ask if Govardhan Prabhu would like to say something before I hand it back to Vaisheshika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Tirumala, sorry, there's a storm coming. I just want to say that it's, Vaisheshika Prabhu's presentation is just out of this world. And is compounded and supplemented and expanded by all the wonderful Sankirtan devotees serving here on African soil. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said that one day these books will be translated into the languages of the birds and the beasts. And when I hear when I hear Vaisheshika Prabhu speak in some of these, like every town and village, parampara, marketplace, last break, speaking power, our duty is to bring the Siddhanta to the people. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a spiritual venture capitalist. Just step outside, even for 2 minutes, get the energy from Lord Chaitanya. I really feel that Vaisheshika Prabhu, some of the other, has been sent to help us. He's such a special devotee, unbelievable. A very special grandson of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and a very special son of Srila Prabhupada. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, we just pray with all the African hearts that we can stay connected to you. If we stay connected to you, you are the switch that can help us ignite Africa again. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. All glories to you, all glories to Prabhupada. Jai Tirumala.
Thank you, Govardhan Prabhu. We'd like to now hand back over to Vaisheshika Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you very much, Govardhan Prabhu. It's very heartfelt, my connection to the entire continent, and it's I feel very fortunate. Shamohini is the executive organizer, director behind BBT Marketing, Innovations, and Communications, along with Anukul Seva Prabhu. Shamohini, do you want to say anything before I just give a couple final words?
No, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, and Anukul Seva, anything from you?
No, Maharaj, I think you've covered.
Okay. They like to
Can I ask a question, Prabhu?
Yes.
It's actually goes back to something that you said in the beginning about managers, and managers are always thinking about problems. I unfortunately fall into that category. And I'm wondering, and of course I've been just thinking about the dynamics between trying to manage, so to speak, manage a marathon like this, or in whatever capacity one is doing, and also trying to, so to speak, shoot for the light, go all out and do the most to shoot the Prabhupada. How do we balance these two elements? Because as a manager, one would want to just minimalize, just keep everything in check, in that sort of mentality. Whereas if someone is just going out and out, we're trying to say, the rules to go out the windows. We're just trying to do the most that we can. And I've personally often found that these two dynamics are very difficult to balance. So I was hoping that Prabhu could kindly, from your wisdom, give us some guidance. Thank you.
Okay, Tirumala Mataji, please tell me what he said.
Okay, so his audio was a little bit bad, but from what I understand, he's asking how to balance being a manager and also just like going all out and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and spreading the movement, while you've still got that element of having to, manage everything.
Yeah, good point. What an excellent question, Jagadananda Prabhu. It's helpful in management to do two things. And I can say this because I'm a manager. I wear different hats, and one of them is management hat, which I put on reluctantly about a decade ago. And I understand how onerous it is to manage anything. And so I find two things extremely helpful in management. In fact, they're so vital that without them, I can't imagine surviving in management. One of them is reading Prabhupada's books every day. Unless I read my quota of pages every day without fail, I cannot organize my intelligence in such a way to justify the various cross currents that come from management. So everything gets balanced in one's intelligence by reading Prabhupada's purports. And I do recommend taking a quota. For instance, I read 41 pages a day of Bhagavatam because that means I'll finish the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year. And you can judge from the app, Be a Sage page by page. It's free on the App Store, but read every day. And the second one is you have to go out at least once a month, because managers get oxygen from going out and seeing what's actually being done when there's an exchange between a person who doesn't know about Krishna consciousness and the person who's giving it. And without seeing that miracle, management doesn't make sense. And so go out as a kind of tonic for management. And even if it's once a month for 5 minutes, it will invigorate you in such a way that you'll have the wherewithal to do enlightened management. Otherwise, you get on that management plateau where you'll feel overwhelmed by the management. And as a couple final words, I'd like to say, Tirumala Mataji and Govardhan Prabhu and all the esteemed devotees who have joined today. I think the most important takeaway from this meeting today, in a practical way, is to please set goals. Please write them down. Take a piece of paper and a pen and write down what your goal is. Consider it with your local devotees, whether you have 3 devotees, 2, 1,000, or 10,000 in your community. The act of writing down your goal and announcing it plants a flag through which everything else happens. You can say or do anything else, but if you don't have that, a commitment to the goal, the energy will not move. And so this is the primary activity that flips the switch, that brings the energy. So don't be afraid to do it. It's what actually makes yatras happy. Prabhupada said in management, we should always have a fresh challenge to rise up and meet it. And one of the ways we can quantify those challenges is through book distribution. So pick a goal, stretch a little, and watch Lord Chaitanya respond. Finally, the African continent, I believe, could be the #1 book distribution continent in the world. And the reason I say that is because you have the leadership, you have the population, and you have the books. Through the 4 laws of book distribution, I urge you to please move ahead of India. It's not out of the question. Do it step by step, and do it systematically, and for what it will make of the continent to achieve it. Everything else will improve. It'll show systematic improvement in every aspect of the 7 purposes of ISKCON when you move forward towards this goal. So plan it out and go. I think you already are, but I'm just encouraging that you can do this and saturate the continent of India. I can't think of anything that would make Prabhupada happier than to see Africa #1 in the world. That's just my humble opinion. Thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me this time in your association. And we'll be poking our head back in again, because now we have a vested interest. I mean, we always have, but I'm feeling it really intimately now with all of you. Please take advantage of this unprecedented time to get a victory over the pandemic by excelling in book distribution, because after that, then nothing can stop you. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Mother Tirumala, may I ask everyone to unmute for 1 second and say Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhu.
Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. I want to
Hare
hear it.
Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare.
Pancha Kalpadrishta.
Krishna.